Greetings, I'm Stephanie Briggs, the creator of Heart Blossom, where I offer soul guidance and inspiration to a global community of healers, artists, and heart-centered leaders. This is your moon message for the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on June 5th, 2020, and that is exact at 3:13 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today. So eclipse season is officially here. This is the start, although it certainly feels like we've already been moving into these energies with the retrogrades over the last few weeks. And this eclipse includes the sun at 15 degrees of Gemini in a conjunction with Venus, which is retrograde at 12 degrees of Gemini. The moon is opposite at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, and then this whole eclipse is in an exact T-square. This is a big tension pattern with Mars at 15 degrees of Pisces and Neptune at 20 degrees of Pisces nearby. So this is a lot of mutable energy, mutable being the signs of the zodiac that have the most movement, where there's a shift happening. We're moving toward what's next. It's sort of that transformational energy. And so right now, all of this energy is sort of ramping up, and it's here, and it's just building up like to a breaking point. So change is inevitable, but in this moment that we're in, there is restlessness, there's polarization, there are inflamed passions and confusion and chaos and disillusionment and conflicting messages and agendas and voices, and just so much going on, so much to take in and be aware of. And I do want to just specifically acknowledge here in Turtle Island, the United States, we're in the midst of historic protest and uprising in the movement for Black Lives in response to the unjust murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis last week. And I just want to say specifically that I do support the movement for Black Lives. I am very clear that Black Lives matter, and I want the police to stop killing Black people. And I actually don't support the police at all. I believe that the police should actually be abolished because the entire system is rooted in white supremacy. So in these shifting times, how do you make sense of the world with all these multitude of voices that are happening around us, perspectives, agendas, but also the different voices and parts of us? So all the different things that are happening inside of us. And it's some of the questions that are up right now is like, what is even real? Does reality even exist anymore? Like, what's the truth? Which truth is true? Who can you trust? Can you trust yourself to know who to trust? And then when you feel confused, are you actually confused though? Or are you just avoiding or frightened of what it is that you know within yourself? In this time of polarization, we have Gemini, this air sign that is all about looking at those pieces, all the different voices and perspectives that are here within the whole, which is where Sagittarius tends to operate, in that realm of the whole, the global, of all that is. Now, on the shadow side, Gemini is again this place of there is no truth. Everything is relative. A lot of times there can be empty words or sort of that trickster energy, where I say one thing over here, and then when I come to this different group who thinks something different, I say whatever it is that matches with them. So I actually have no center and truth within me. Now in Sagittarius shadow, we can have the opposite, where there is only one truth. My truth is the absolute truth, and there can be a lot of dogma, propaganda, like fundamentalism, anything where we believe that we have the one and only truth and the real true wisdom, and that everyone else should buy into our truth. So again, with Sagittarius, there's one truth. With Gemini shadow, there's no truth. So the world is changing right before our eyes, but actually, like, the way that we see the world is also changing. There's change happening in our inner world. And right now, a lot of people, especially white people, are seeing much more of what's been here for quite a while that other people have been directly experiencing and trying to tell us about. But now, in this moment, with all these tensions, and everything that's already been going on with the COVID crisis, it feels like there's an opening for more awareness, more regard, and witnessing of what's actually here. And now it's important, again, as I started to say, that the way that we look at things influences what we see. So we tend to look for evidence to confirm what we already believe, our expectations of the world, what we think is true. And in turn, this shapes our experience of reality, as we're co-creating our experience through our perceptions and the meaning that we make of them, what we assign to as meaning to things that are going on. So in the midst of this global ancestral and cultural healing crisis, we actually have an opportunity to be part of this shift and part of this process of breaking the curse of ancestral, intergenerational, collective trauma that has been going on for a long time. And now this process, again, is not happening just now. It's been ongoing and it will be continuing. But this is really an especially potent moment that we're in and will be for the next month or so and beyond. And of course, this is all part of the larger 2020 experience of Pluto-Saturn conjunction, where we are transforming the very structures and foundations of our society, especially, again, here in the United States. Now, another thing that's going on right now is that Chiron is in Aries and is in a square, another tension pattern, an opportunity for growth and movement with Mercury, which is in Cancer. So all these legacies of pain and suffering and trauma are being voiced, and in being heard, they create space for healing of that wound, of the pain that's been held and carried. And so the first step to creating this change and healing, whether we're speaking of our individual journey or the collective journey, is to really make room to see and regard and witness everything that is here. We have to see and hear it before we can transform it and move on. So at this time, I just want to ask you, like, with all these current events, like, are these confirming or confronting your beliefs and your experiences and your understanding and expectations of life? Some of us, a lot of us, have ingrained beliefs and even like a view of the world that's actually rooted in trauma. Some of these beliefs might be like, it's not safe, people can't be trusted, I'm alone, there's something wrong with me, I'm not enough. There's so many. And some of them can be really specific and some of them can be really sneaky. And some of them are still true, but many of them are actually false in the sense that they no longer apply because they were formed a lot of times in childhood when we actually were, for example, relatively helpless. But actually, like, as adults, we're not actually helpless. Of course, there are real limitations and challenges and barriers in the world, but we actually have a lot more power and capacity to tend to ourselves and to look after and to go for what we want when we actually tune into that bigger part of us, the adult part, the wise part of us. So our calling now, individually and in the collective, is really to witness and to welcome in with curiosity and compassion, like, and regard, like, all of the memories, the stories, the voices, the beliefs that are here, that are coming forward, that are ready to be transformed in ourselves and in the collective. Now, something that we have right now to help us with this is Vesta. Vesta is the priestess archetype and also is all about holding space. And Vesta is currently at the beginning of Cancer, at 0 degrees of Cancer. This is where the the solar eclipse will be happening later this month at the solstice. And so this is really an important point. And Vesta has been transiting close to the North Node, which is at 29 degrees at the end of Gemini. So we have sort of these two energies that are bridging this Gemini Cancer cusp. And so it's really highlighting that with the North Node, our destiny, what we're moving toward is more safety, safe spaces like compassionate community, mutual aid, where we're supporting one another to be well and nourished, and creating a culture of compassion and gentleness, and caring for one another. And so this is really being highlighted as the way forward. But also individually with Vesta, it's reminding us that listening to the voice of our soul is really the key to aligning with our destiny, whether it's individually or collectively. So at this time, like what does your soul have to say? Like, what is sustaining you in these times of challenge and unrest and chaos and great change? What is your spiritual truth and your highest vision for your life? You really will find it by turning in to hear what your inner voice has to say, what your heart has to say, what your soul has to say, and your guides. And I've been thinking a lot lately of something that a friend of mine said to me. She said, seeing is believing, but if you don't believe it, you won't see it. And so again, this goes back to this idea of how our beliefs and our perceptions shape our experiences. And so skepticism is a thing that a lot of folks will reach for, actually to create a sense of safety. It can really be a defense against the vulnerability of having faith, of trusting and believing in what we know within us, what we know in our mind's eye, or what we feel like with every beat of our heart that we can't actually prove or have evidence for or touch or see or know for sure, because either it's intangible or perhaps it has not come into tangible manifestation yet. So I just want to invite you to be open to listen and be aware, not to turn away from what is going on around you and within you, but also to really, again, lean on that inner knowing that can never be proven right or wrong. And let your inner flame, your inner passion fuel you and guide you into your inspired action, what you are moved to do, what you are moved to create and support in alignment with your beliefs and your vision and your values. Because we each have things to contribute. There's no one right way. We don't have to do it all. None of us individually can do it all, but there's things that each of us can do. So I invite you to spend some time reflecting on that, looking at what you can do, what you feel moved to do, what you're good at, what you have to offer, and just go ahead and get started. Just take one action and then go from there. So I just want to send you lots of love wherever you are, however you're feeling right now. These are intense times, and gentleness and slowing down and compassion and grounding into our bodies are all really good medicine right now. Hope you have a powerful and uplifting eclipse season. Be well.